Hello, this is Britt Caswell with another example video. In today's video, I'm covering example 4 from section 7-4 in the SavvasRealize Algebra 2 textbook. The goal of today's video is to develop a graph and an equation from a description. Now, I think that Savvas actually puts this together very well, so I'm going to try to follow it as close as I can because of the way that their layout is on this. So it says a math teacher has a clock centered at the origin of a coordinate system. All right, so the middle of the clock right there is at 0, 0. The hour hand of the clock is 5 inches long, so we're looking at this shorthand. Graph the relationship between x in hours and y in inches between the horizontal axis and the tip of the hour hand. Let midnight represent 0h in the graph of the relationship for the time between midnight and 11:59 p.m. Write the equation describing the relationship that you graphed. So the first thing we should do, right, is we should look at these values where the hand is going to be. And so that's what Savvas does right away. So they're saying that at the time 0, so when no time has passed, it's currently at 5. All right, so my one complaint about this is that it should really be starting at the 12 up here where the 8 is, but that's okay. So at time is 0, so at midnight, I guess, or I guess noon, it's 5 inches up high, right? So then we go to 3 o'clock, and when 3 o'clock has happened, it's now at a height of 0 on our axis. At 6 o'clock, this hand is moved down and it's down at -5. At 9 o'clock, it's back at the height of 0. And at 12 o'clock, it's back up at 5. All right, so those are the points that they're giving us. Now, see how it's almost like a V shape? Or I guess it would be a U shape because it would be kind of curved. That tells you this is going to be some kind of cosine function, okay? So we're going to want to find an a and b value for this expression. So the next thing that they do is they said that they want it to go from midnight to 11:59 p.m. So we've gone halfway because now we're at noon. So we have to have this pattern happen again. And so the next part that they do is they compute another iteration of the graph. So see how it has the U and then the U? So that's them going around the clock again. And so now that we have that, I'm gonna sketch in our kind of shape onto here. Might make life a little easier for some of you guys to see. Ooh, but I don't know how to draw, so use your imaginations, kids. So that's roughly, very roughly, what our graph should look like, okay? And so we said that it's a cosine function, so we need to go ahead and we need to calculate our a and our b. All right? So notice that it's starting out with the same general shape as our cosine function does, right? See how it starts at the top, goes down, then goes to the top again for a cosine? So that's how you know that this isn't a negative a at all. Okay, that's just going to be a positive a because it's not flipped. All right, so our minimum value of this graph, our bottom value here, is at -5. And our maximum value is at +5. And so what I've realized I forgot to put on here was the midline, so let me include that. Because you can't find your amplitude without your midline. So this graph, because it goes from -5 to +5, the middle, or the average between those, is 0. So my midline is at y equals 0. So to get my amplitude, 5 minus 0 is equal to 5. So my amplitude, or my a value, is 5. So now the period is where it gets a little dicey for people, I think. And so we really want to focus on how to get the period. okay? So to get a period, what you want to do is you want to look at how long on the x-axis it takes to do one iteration of that U shape, right? So from here to here, that took 12 hours. So our period here is 12. So now we need to solve for our b. So remember how we said that the period is 2 pi divided by b? So if I go ahead and I plug in a 12 for that period, I can go ahead and find b. All right, so I get that b is equal to 2 pi divided by 12. Remember, it's cross multiplication. You can just flip those, right? So my b value, or little b, they use big B and little b kind of interchangeably, would be pi over 6. And again, that came from plugging the 12 in for the period into the period formula. So my equation, if I use 5 for my a and pi over 6 for my b, would be y equals 5 cosine of pi over 6 x, like that. So now in the try it, we're going to do that same kind of process, but now we're going to be doing it with, they just ask for the period. Okay, so it's not taking us all the way to writing the equation, though I would like to write the equation out because I'm kind of a nerd. I'm gonna. So I'm going to write the equation out, but it just wants a period in Savvas, okay? So notice, I went ahead and I just took their graph. So if this thing is starting at 12 o'clock midnight on the minute hand, all right, it's going to be 8 inches high, which you see here at 0. And then they go ahead and they are, they're going in 15-minute increments. And that's because there's 15 minutes and a quarter of a clock. So at 3 o'clock, or 15 minutes in, that height of the minute hand is at 0. After 30 minutes, or it's when the hand is at 6, it's down at -8. And then it comes back up, and at 45 minutes, the height is again 0. And then when it's gone around a full 60 minutes, it's back up to 8. All right. Now, they do that iteration 3 times because they're saying from noon to 3 p.m. on their problem. Alrighty, I'm hoping that kind of makes sense. So my a in this case is kind of obvious, right? There's no shift in the graph. It goes from -8 to 8. So my midline is 0. So my little a is just an 8. But the period can be kind of difficult for people. Remember, the period is the distance on the x-axis that it takes kind of to go, like to do one iteration of the graph. So one iteration of this v goes from 0 to 60. So to answer the Savvas question, the period equals 60 minutes. But I want the equation. I want to do it. So remember, the period equation says period equals 2 pi over b. So we need to find b. So I'm going to say that 60 equals 2 pi over b. So b equals 2 pi over 60. So my b value here is pi over 30. So if I want to write out the equation, I would say y equals 8 times the cosine of pi over 30 x. So there we have it, guys. There's how to develop a graph and an equation from a description. Until next time.